Hi everybody, instructor Christina here for this week's Ask MMA. We had a couple anonymous questions sent, so I thought I'd take a moment to answer them. First off, the question is, how do you properly use an illuminator? Well, here's the thing. Illuminators vary in the amount of reflection that they give off. So you'll have some that produce like a slight pearl finish, all the way to something that's super sparkly or shiny or even holographic. The general rule of thumb with an illuminator or a highlighter, that's another name for it, is that you want to place it on the highest points of your face. So like your brow bone, the tops of your cheekbone. Avoid areas though that if you saw shine could potentially just read as oily. So when I use an illuminator, I tend to avoid the T-zone, which is your forehead, and the center of your face. I know that it's a big trend to put a little bit of highlighter or illuminator on the tip of your nose, and that's fine if you're not naturally oily prone or have oily skin type. Just stay away from the chin and the nose if you are oily, because it just lends to that. So again, tops of the cheeks. Brow bone is great. You can do a little bit around your temple if you're feeling festive, but that's typically where you would want to put an illuminator. Our next question is, what kind of foundation is best for full coverage? Powder or liquid? So here's the deal. You're never going to get full coverage with a powder, only because the pigment is dry, first of all, and it's not really adhering to the skin. It's resting on top of it, so your natural skin is going to come through. Powder's a great solution if you're looking for minimal coverage, but you want a matte finish instead of satin or dewy. If you're looking for a fuller coverage, it's best to use a liquid or a cream, and they tend to say right on the bottle what type of coverage they're going to provide. Sometimes it'll say sheer, sometimes it'll say full, sometimes it'll say medium. Typically with liquids, you can build up the coverage, so even if it's a sheer to medium coverage, if you do nice thin layers and you let them dry in between and you're patting it on with either like a beauty blender or a specific brush, you should be able to build up the coverage in key areas. So I hope that helps. Okay, our next question says, what color corrector shade is best for olive skin? So this is a little tricky because when we talk about color correcting, we of course need to take into account the undertone of someone's skin, but you also have to consider the value, how light or dark. So you're looking at if they have olive, if they have yellow, if there's red, if there's blue undertones, plus their value. So if they're super fair in value or light in value, it doesn't make sense to grab a color corrector that's super bold and saturated because you're just going to have a really hard time covering that up. So for olive skin, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to neutralize pigmentation within the face, say that you're overall olive toned, you have olive undertones, but maybe it presents stronger on your face than your neck and your chest, and you want to balance that out, you're going to need colors or color correctors that are going to help neutralize that olive. So if we break it down, olive is essentially green with some yellow, right? So opposite of green on the color wheel is red, and opposite yellow on the color wheel is purple. So we know that the color corrector should potentially have red and in it. I would not recommend a full like a lavender color corrector. That's going to neutralize too much, and the skin tends to look a little dull when you take some of the life out of it. So I'd probably say something that has a little bit of red in it will help balance out a complexion that's pulling too saturated in its olive undertones around key areas of the face. If you are looking to neutralize the under eye area, which on anybody tends to pull either like a bluish purple, a greenish purple, depending on their undertone. The safest bet is to find a color corrector that is like a salmon color, which is like a peach almost. So you're looking for a orange that has a softness to it, and matches in value to the skin. So I hope that helps. Okay, so we're almost to the end of this. The second to the last question says, can you recommend a makeup book that covers the fundamentals? So here's what I want to say about books regarding makeup. They can be a valuable source of inspiration, and if you already understand proper technique and fundamentals, then it's a way to elevate your skill set. That being said, if you're completely novice or new to makeup and you've never picked up a brush in your life, I would say before you even read about makeup, the research about makeup sanitation. It's one thing to apply makeup to yourself, but it's entirely a whole other ballgame if you're going to apply to other people or prospective clients, customers, things like that. So it would serve you well to look into some sanitation training in regards to makeup, and a great site is sanitationconversation.com. I'll just throw that out there. But to answer the question about some great makeup books, there is a book called The Makeup Artist Handbook by Gretchen Davis. You can find it on Amazon, and it's pretty comprehensive, and it actually has a lot of insight into makeup artistry and how makeup artists, specifically on film sets, get their looks accomplished and their tips and tricks, and I find it very interesting. So I think that's a good place to start. If you are actually looking more for inspiration, any of the books by Kevin Aquan are completely amazing and very transformational makeup looks, I should say. So they're great, and they're pretty much the standard nowadays as far as like how to achieve some sort of makeup transformation. So I hope that helps. Our last question for the day is, can you recommend any good brush size or brand to do a cut crease? I wish I could be super specific with this and say, oh, you want this brand and this brush and this size. But the reality is, everybody has a different size eye and has different components and characteristics to their eye. So they could have what is considered a protruding eye, which means that their eyes are naturally a little more forward and that affects their lid space. Or they could have a little bit of a droopy eye, which means that everything's kind of on a natural downward slant. Depending on what's going on with the lid, it's just really important to kind of play around with brushes. I mean, a cut crease denotes precision, so you're not going to want a fluffy brush. You probably want something, or you're going to have two brushes. One that's going to give you precise crease, and one brush to blend upward from there. I do want to recommend a brand, though. This is my personal favorite brand. I have their studio line, and I have their special effects brushes. It's Dellium. So if you're looking that up, it actually is Bdellium. So it's pronounced Dellium, but there's a B in front of it, not to throw you off. Their studio line, the brushes are yellow, like this. This is not a brush I would use for a cut crease per se, but this line of brushes is amazing. They're soft and they have increased longevity. Like, I'm pretty hard on my brushes. The special effects brush line that's made from them stands up to any glue remover or adhesives in general that I've thrown its way. So Dellium is a great company for brushes, and you can buy actual sets, or you can buy, go on their website and look at their top rated brushes. You could buy them as standalone. So I hope that helps and that we've answered your questions, and we'll be back next week. Thanks. Bye.